Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Get ready for Talking Heads, the show where expert insights meet world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Brought to you by USA Global TV and Radio. Meet our distinguished presenters. From the great state of Texas, longevity expert, award-winning author, publisher, and distinguished Toastmaster, Red O'Loughlin. From London, England, soul heart awakener, novelist, vocal coach, and artist, Dr. Madeline Chan. Also from England, the Harley Street stress expert, therapist, ambassador for peace, and speaker, Carolyn Heward. And from Australia, ICF PCC credentialed coach, entrepreneur, and leadership coach, Mariska du Preez. Experience their expertise, connect with their wisdom, and transform your perspective. Watch Talking Heads on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. This video and its contents are the property of USA Global TV and Radio. All rights reserved. Terms and conditions apply. Visit usaglobaltv.com for more details.
Hello, USA Global TV and Radio. Welcome and welcome back for those of you that has joined us before and those that's new to this platform or even to this show. Welcome to you too. You are joining me here today on Talking Heads, and I am Mariska du Preez. So, what will we be diving into today? Now, as you may know, I work with leaders, whether you are moving into leadership or whether you are moving up in your leadership journey. And I thought that seeing as some of the leaders that I've been speaking to lately has had this thing around teams and how do we effectively work together and all sorts of conversations around that topic, I will also bring a little bit of that to this platform today. So I also found a very interesting piece of research recently done by Gallup. Now, they go out into the wide world and ask people what they want from their leaders. And what they found is that most people, with a whopping more than half of everybody that they asked, want some form of hope. And then the second highest thing that they want is trust. So if you have a team or a group that you are working with, in all likelihood, more than half of the people in your group would either be looking for some form of hope and trust within what you bring as a leader. Now, they went a little bit further and they looked at what's the key components when we think about hope, because hope is one of those things where it can feel a little bit arbitrary. It can feel a little bit, well, what hope means to this person doesn't necessarily equate to what hope means to that person. What is the attributes, the top attributes that people ascribe to hope? So when they did that, they found that for hope, people really want to be inspired. They want to have a clear vision, and they want to know that their leader has personal integrity. It basically means what you say you're going to do, that is what you will do. And it also leads into that element of trust. because they know they can trust us. So now, knowing that this is what we as leaders need to bring to the table in order to help those that follow us, whether it is in our community or whether it is our team at work, how does that actually work? So one of the things that I work with the people within the leadership space in my own practice is around how to build trust, as well as how we can take a team along so that we will win together and it becomes a whole team involved situation instead of us as the leaders saying, well, this is the things that need to happen, and then hopefully creating buy-in in the process. Or, and I am sure a lot of you might have experienced this, leading from a place of fear. Because yes, it is a way to lead. It is not, as we can see through the research done by Gallup, necessarily the best way to lead. Because if and when we are leading from a place of fear, we are not creating hope, and we are definitely not creating trust either. It is broken, not built. So how do we do this then? So the elements that we want to look at today is 1, why is it important? 2, looking at the outside in, so looking at what maybe our stakeholders need from us, and how we can actually become more than just the sum of our parts. So how can we increase our team in general? So let's first look at the importance of involving the team in this journey. So say, for instance, we have created hope by having that grand vision. We have inspired our team. They are raring to go. They fired up. The big thing then becomes, okay, so we have this vision. We know that we want to go in this specific direction. How does this actually look like? And here is a place where we can involve our team. And thinking about how to involve our team. Now, there's different ways of doing this. And depending on where we are within the organization, we might want to think about, okay, is this an area where I can involve my team, and how might this look like? Or is this an area where potentially it is something that came from on high? We might be in a middle management or a frontline manager position, and it is something that is given to us that we now need to implement. We can still involve our team. How do we do this? And why is it even important to do this? So the reason why we want to make sure that we involve our team is, 1, we create more buy-in. The second actually plays into our Gallup research around trust. So being able to create that space of trust with our team will also help us to create the buy-in. It will also help us to show up in a space of integrity for ourselves, because we can now do this with the team in an authentic way. So we want to, that's part of the why it is important to be able to involve our team. And sometimes we might think, yes, but it's going to take too long. And what if they have objections to this thing that I have no control over whatsoever? I've been there. I know the feeling. The big thing is explaining to them what is in our control and what is not. So we always have some form of boundary that we are working within. Some of the things we can control, and some of them we might just need to implement. And understanding the difference between them. What is a mandate and we need to figure out how to implement it so it makes sense for us. And what might be something that we need to figure out just in general so that we can implement it in a way that suits us best. And all of this is things that you and the team can figure out yourselves. Now, I want to bring in this other layer of our outside-in perspective. Because when we get, say, for instance, a mandate from on high, we might think, well, this is sort of a thou shalt type of instruction. And in some organizations, that might be the case. We also have control over how we implement it. And taking into consideration the outside in, what we're doing is we are looking at our different levels of stakeholders. Now, our leadership team, the guys that's leading above us and girls, they are part of our stakeholder group or our ecosystem group. We also have within our ecosystem all the other departments that we work with, and even the ones that we might not be thinking about. So if we are within a technical space, for instance, we might not think about training as a stakeholder. Yet they are an ecosystem partner, and we can use them as a resource. So that's really the thing that we want to do. We want to see from all our stakeholders that we have in our ecosystem, who is it that potentially we work with most? Now, I am sure when I ask you about the people that you work with most in other departments, you will give them to me at an instant. The thing is, that's not your only ecosystem partners. We have more than that. Yes, my direct boss is an ecosystem partner, and my boss's boss is also one, and my boss's boss's boss is also one. So you see how it gets a little bit wider, and that's just going up. That's not even going to the sides yet, or down, or outside of the organization. So there are loads and loads of stakeholders that we might not be considering. Typically, we think of the ones we work with first, and that is fine. What is helpful is to make that list. So start with the ones that you think of first. And then the next question you ask yourself is, okay, so I have these ones. Who might I not be thinking about that can get me into trouble? So here it may be a regulatory body. It might be some regulation things within my organization. If I am within the health and safety space, I might think of that. If I'm not in the health and safety space, I might need to include them. Something that we have in Australia and New Zealand, I'm not so sure about necessarily the rest of the world in the US, specifically what they are called, but I'm sure that you have something similar to it, is WorkSafe. So they look at the health and safety in the workplace. And if we have any big incidents or accidents within any of our work environments, they would be the guys that would be called in. Now, would that be one of the stakeholders that pops to mind first? Most probably not. Are they very important? Most certainly they are. So we need to have them on the list. So understanding our stakeholders and bringing the outside in. As a leader, it helps us to think about, well, who is it that, one, we are serving as a team, and two, we can potentially utilize as a resource. Because as much as we are serving these people as a team ourselves, they also have things and functions that they perform. And potentially we might be able to utilize them and their strengths to help us in our endeavors. So understanding our list of stakeholders, really, really helpful, not only for us as the leader, but also for the team, because we can then as a team decide, how do we want to do this? What is it that we are really good at? And where do we need to put our focus? What is it that other people see that they need our focus to be in? And where can we potentially outsource some of the things and utilize other departments or other stakeholders as resources for us? So thinking about it in that way makes it a lot easier too, which also goes into that hope and inspiration piece, because now we're not only focusing on our small little group or team, we are also focusing on the larger ecosystem, which means we are bringing more people along with us. So thinking about our ecosystem partners also helps us then to create that buy-in. So the buy-in is not only for our own team, it becomes about the larger organization, the larger ecosystem. So to give you an example of how this might look like, we might have a maintenance team, for example, that has a grand vision of running their plant between outages, for instance. To do this, they need to get the plant down for certain amounts of time. And to do that, they need operators' help. They also need the engineering department's help in order to see what might be upgrades that they need to do or any improvements that's required in order to get the plant to run for a longer time without intervention. On top of that, they might also need their project department, because some of what engineering comes up with might be a capital outlay. So you start to see how all these different departments, though it is the vision of the maintenance department, all these other ones start to feed into it. So the more we can help the others to see the vision that we have and what we want to achieve, as well as communicate it in a way where it makes sense for them. So if I'm, for instance, going to speak to the operators, what they're really concerned about is they want to make sure that this plant runs without them having a headache ever. Now, we know that that might not always be possible, but that's what they really, really want. Reminds me of the song from a while back. Now, the engineers might really, really want something else. And the way that I'm going to communicate to them might look different to the way that I'm going to communicate to my operators, which means my messaging will be different for the two in order to create the buy-in and utilize them as the resources that we need as the team. And all of this, yes, leader, it is part of your job. So we are doing all of this so that we can win together, not only as our team, but as a big team, as an organization, from a bigger perspective, as an ecosystem. Now, the next thing that you might start to see that I'm alluding to is this element of being the sum of our parts being greater. Now, if we were to have a lot of infighting, for instance, and we have a lot of resistance and we can't get to resolutions, or we always have a compromise when we are doing things, we might have a win-lose situation. Then we have a subtraction or even a dividing element in our team, because I have this team and I have this team. And instead of coming up with something that can solve whatever the problem is that we are sitting with, or the place that we are moving towards in a bigger than type of way, we have a, well, you want this, I want that. And instead of looking at how we can do potentially both of these things within the space that we are looking for, we go, well, you can't have it, so I'll just give you half and I'll give you half. So nobody's really very happy about it. One of the elements that you can use to have greater than conversations, instead of these dividing conversations, is really to zoom out. So we want to bring the outside in, so have the voices and the resources from our stakeholders into our own team. And we also want to zoom out. Now, what does zooming out do? You might wonder. Well, if you think about a problem that you have, and you can bring any problem to mind, right? And think about stepping away from your desk or the problem and taking a walk, giving it space, physical space, right? And then coming back to the thing that you had thought about. Typically, for most of us, there's going to be something new we see, a new idea, a different perspective. It might be that we come into the room and it's like, oh, okay, maybe I need to draw this on the blackboard, and I start drawing it out. And because I'm drawing it out, I see it in a different light. Or I maybe speak to somebody on my way to the break room about this problem that I have, and they mention something that gives me an idea. And that's really what the zooming out is about. The zooming out gives us space to look at the thing that we are trying to do in a different light. Now, for most specialists, what happens is we are always in problem-solving mode. And when we are in problem-solving mode, we forget to ask one of our very fundamental questions. Not what's the solution, but really, what is it that we are trying to achieve? Because the problem that we have might be a result of some solution that we got earlier, and fixing it gives us another problem because of the solution that we had. But if we zoom out far enough and we can go back to, well, what are we actually trying to do? Go back to your first principles as to what is the intention of this thing? You might see that actually I don't need any of these solutions. If I do this one thing, it solves all of it. And I don't have that problem anymore, or any of the downstream problems anymore. So zooming out gives us the opportunity to do that. Now, as a leader, it is your function not to get the solutions, but to help your team to do that, to zoom out. And going back to our research again, when we have an inspiration that we have shared, a vision that we have shared, what that really means is, well, we need to trust the team to come up with the steps, right? And part of our job as the leader is really to hold that vision up and say, okay, these are the steps. Will it bring us closer to our vision? Or how might it impact this? What does it look like? So having those conversations is part of what you are supposed to be doing as a leader. And getting the thing done, right? Working on the details, that's what you need to enable your team to do. So being able to utilize all of these, you can start to see how together we are now winning and we are involving everybody around us. And by doing that, we work to each other's strengths. We also will most likely come up with loads of solutions that we personally might not even have considered or thought of because, well, our head was just a little bit too much in the sand or in the work at that stage, and we didn't give ourselves space to zoom out. So thinking about that, we can see why it's important to involve our team and how to create a system where the sum of our parts has a greater than equation rather than a dividing equation, and utilizing things like outside in and zooming out and in when we require to. It helps us utilize different tools and skill sets to help our team so that we as a team can then move further. And there is a wonderful African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. So with that, I am going to leave you to go together because I know that you want to go a lot further and not necessarily at speed. So with that, that is the end of our lesson today. I hope that you enjoyed it. And of course, there's loads of other leadership related things in our library. So please do go and have a look in our library for some of the other leadership related episodes that we have there. And if you are a leader and you are thinking about, well, maybe I need to zoom out, but I don't quite know how to do that by myself, or I need somebody that I can brainstorm with in a safe space where I can get some of these thoughts out before trying to implement them in real life, you are more than welcome to contact me, and you can do that via my email, which is mariska@journey2discover.com, or alternatively, you can also connect on LinkedIn. And there you can find me under Mariska D. Yes, they dropped the rest of my surname. So with that, I will see you in a month, and I hope that you enjoy bringing your team along and going further still. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA-Global-TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.